this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and we're in studio today with Hera Hilmar, star of Mortal Engines.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You just had your 2 big premieres.
Yes, yeah.
And Mortal Engines has been thrown upon us for the holiday season.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's been quite of a ride. We've been, all over the place, showing our movie, and hopefully people like it and go and see it.
How did you get involved with the movie?
I auditioned for it. I was doing a play at the time in Iceland, and so I did an audition tape. I didn't actually go in for an audition, and sent it out into the world. And 2 days later, we were on a Skype call. Me, Christian Rivers, who directs, Peter Jackson, Philip Boyens, and Fran Walsh, who produce and write. And 2 days after that, I had the job. It was very quick.
Wow.
It was very, overwhelming and kind of odd in a way. But I think they'd been looking for a long time for, someone to play Hester, and I think they knew exactly what they were looking for. So, it happened very quickly.
How did Peter Jackson describe the world when you had that conversation with him?
He actually didn't at all. I mean, it was mainly Philippa Boyens, to be fair, there was. And we had like an hour where she was describing it because it's such a, it's
very complex.
It's complex, yeah. And when you have never seen it, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it. No, Peter came in later, and we ended up talking about sheep mainly, sheep population in New Zealand versus sheep population in Iceland, and that versus human population in general. But it was nice. It broke it up a bit, and just normal chat about life.
Tell me how this world was kind of described to you at the beginning.
Because I actually can't really fully remember how they described it, but I remember reading it and just going like, there are these moving cities, eating each other, and there's this kind of crazy female heroine in the middle of all that chaos, and I've actually simplified that down to when you first read about it, if you read the synopsis on it or anything, it's kind of overwhelming. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Hester Shaw. Did you pull any inspiration from anywhere to play her?
Yeah, well, first of all, I started with just the material, the script, and then I got my hands on the books and I started reading, and it all had to happen quite quickly. She's a complex character, and she's written Philip Reeve wrote her in such a great way where she's a challenge to really understand fully because she's not simple in any way, and but she's when we meet her in the beginning, she's kind of this feral, spiky, hardened person who doesn't really want to communicate or doesn't even know how to communicate with people. Has been living on her own with this sort of half robot, half human called Shrike since she lost her mother when her mother was murdered in front of her. And when she was 8 years old. So she's been carrying this trauma with her for years, and the only thing she wants to do in life is to kill the man that killed her mother, and if it means that she dies doing that, that's okay to her. But then, of course, life isn't just that simple, and she goes on this big journey and learns a lot about herself and the world.
And you went from doing a play to doing this very big action movie, which is also mostly filmed on green screen. Am I correct?
Actually not. That's the
thing.
No, the amount of, we had over 120 sets, and fully intricate set designs, and there's a town called Airhaven in the film or in the books, and it was completely built. It hung from the ceiling.
Amazing.
It had a bar. It had bridges. It had docks for the airships. We had all the airships. They moved around. We had, St. Paul's in London was built on the inside. We had a town called Shangguo. We had Scuttlebutt. There was this home machinery that moved around. It was kind of like being in an amusement park or something for Mortal Engines, and we were the characters playing the characters inside that. So the actual green screen work was more like the sort of the peripheral, the
big special effects
moments.
Yeah,
seeing it from far away from the outside, and
Right.
And, you know, yeah.
It was funny. I didn't want to give anything away, but
Yeah.
you have like a very emotional storyline
Mm-hmm.
with your robot
Stepfather?
stepfather.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yeah, Strike. Yes.
Was that like an interesting twist to play?
Oh yeah, I really like the relationship. I think it's really beautiful and really unique to see something. To me, I was trying to understand how you communicate with someone who's like him, who is not human, who doesn't have a heart, who doesn't have a soul, but happens to be as soulful and have as big a heart in a way as he does. And it made me, the only thing that I kind of understood from my life of that kind of communication of someone who's so different, but yet so in a way rich in emotion, was someone who's maybe on the spectrum in some ways, and you have to, that maybe understand social communications differently than the sort of the rest of the world. And so I tried to kind of look into that, and but yeah, I mean, so much of it is also just in the writing, and then Stephen Lang brought him to life in such a lovely way.
And with such a heavily action-based movie, was there a lot of camaraderie between all of you as you're like kind of in this completely...
In this thing together.
Yeah, this completely wonderful fantasy world.
There definitely was an overall camaraderie. I can't even say it properly. Camaraderie. But I have to say, though, like, playing Hester, who's such a isolated individual, meant that like that bleeds a lot into the everything else as well, you know, because in the scenes, a lot of the scenes that I was doing, you know, I'm not really necessarily the biggest kind of group person, so you know, you find yourself being in that place a lot and working very long hours and then going home and having to prep the day after. So you know, we tried to do what we could together when we had the time, but there was also a lot of work.
Exhaustion.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything more about this world that really intrigues you? Because I came out of the movie with a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about the robots.
Absolutely.
And where they came from and why they were built. And were there any questions that you had?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, you know, Mortal Engines on its own, it's a lot to take in, you know, to begin with. And I think if you know, I think it can be an opening to more things. I mean, who knows if we make more movies or not. But, I mean, Philip Reeve wrote so many books. I mean, there's 4 books in a way, and then kind of prequels and stuff. So there's a whole world around it that is so rich. And I just, you know, I think people should go in and get the books to begin with and just look into it. You know, I think so.
Yeah. So I noticed that you have an Instagram that has a lot of pictures of bears on it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's mainly because I went on an amazing bear tour the other day and I just couldn't stop myself.
Amazing bear
posting
tour.
Pictures of it. Yeah, I was in Canada and working in... There's bears everywhere, you know, and like, thankfully I didn't meet them outside the hotel. There was this mama bear and 2 cubs that kept roaming outside the house I was in, and especially in the mornings, and my place was close to the bins, and I was like, one day I'm just gonna walk into this mama bear and her cubs on my way to work, and that won't be a good thing. But no, yeah, I mean, you know, we saw some beautiful animals there, and why am I taking photos of them? I don't know, I just think they're so beautiful, and I like posting on my I don't know, I just like showing things that I find fascinating, rather than necessarily just all being about work.
Yeah, it's actually very refreshing to see somebody's Instagram page and it's more about, you know, life experience, or look at this, I like bears, let me post these cool bears. It's
just nice to have a voice in some way that is not just, you know, me, you know, I'm an actress thing. And I think it's nice.
Do you feel like we're like coming into an age where it's more socially acceptable to be that person, to just be a little different, to be outside of the whole, like, you know, presenting an image for yourself as a young actress?
To be the bear person. I mean, I've always been the bear person. I feel like hasn't that always been allowed? If it hasn't been, well, then I'm not going to be part of it. I think so. I think we should all be able to have our own unique voice.
Yeah.
If that's posting photos of bears or if it's, saying how we feel about life. I think this world today, can be something sensitive of actually, it's hard sometimes to have opinions, especially online, and it's easy to judge and misread and to kind of attack people through the sort of cyber world in some ways. And I think we need to keep our uniqueness and individuality as well as a whole, if that makes sense in some way.
Yeah. And now that this is a big lead role for you.
Yeah.
And you're about to embark on your career, and Hollywood will take notice. Mm-hmm. So are you worried about the roles that you'll be offered, or do you think that there's an opportunity for unique or interesting roles for the young actresses today?
I think Hester Shaw is a really unique, interesting role that was offered to me. So that means that they exist, and hopefully more will be out there. And I want to see more. I want to go and see more roles like that. And hopefully this will keep moving into more of a place of actual balance in terms of how men and women are represented in cinema and TV and arts in general. And yeah.
It's pretty refreshing to see so many women taking the helm on in an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just being the ones who are flying the planes, making the plans.
Yeah, totally.
Executing the plans.
Exactly, and not being kind of told just what to do. But it's also interesting to see them, the women in this film, both allowed to be vulnerable and strong, and we show their vulnerability. I mean, you can't be strong without being weak. You can't. It's the balance of the both, and I think we see through the female characters here also the sort of nurturing collaborational element. Because they, even if they're leading, they're still kind of involving everyone, be it other women and other men. Like Anna Fang does both with Hester and Tom, and I mean Hester and Tom unite as well as a team, and so I feel like it's very kind of non-gender based in that way, and there's also the whole thing with ethnicity. I mean the kind of diversity that's going on, which is great, and is not just something that is happening now because of that's happening more now than ever, but was written in the books nearly 20 years ago. So yeah. It's great, I think.
What kind of career do you envision for yourself? Do you see yourself going into? Is there other things you want to do?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes hard to know exactly what it is till it actually appears in front of you or you're actually in it. I just want to keep doing work that I believe in and that I feel in my gut is something that is right for me to do at that point. I'm not sure what that is necessarily. I have some ideas. I have some projects that I do want to do, and I sort of I'm kind of prepping, and maybe maybe I'll even write something or direct something one day, and who knows? Yeah.
And growing up, you watched a lot of women in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any questions you would want to ask to any of those actresses that you grew up watching?
Oh yeah, I mean how is it you watch a movie this is what comes to my head right now, like The Deer Hunter, for example, and you have Meryl Streep in it when she's very young, kind of early on in her career, I would say, right? I mean, I just wonder how it is being a woman in that position at that time with so many male energy around you, and how you kind of keep at it, because I think it's something that we still need to keep in mind today, and hopefully less and less. I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. Something like that. How do you do it? But yeah, I don't know.
I hope you get to have that conversation with Meryl.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I hear she's very accessible.
Great. I'll ring her up and be like, hey, we need to sit down, Meryl.
Hera Hilmar, thank you so much for being here at the
Thank you
movies
too.
Mortal Engines. It's out now.
Thanks.